Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel and a brand new video. In this week's video, we'll be taking a look at how I made this custom buffet cabinet. And this video has a little bit of everything, so we'll take a look at how I did every technique to make these cabinets. If you're interested in any of the tools that you see in this video, check out a description where I have a link to everything. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so starting things off, we will build the frame for this cabinet out of 3/4 inch birch plywood sheets. And the first thing that I needed to do was to break down all of these sheets into usable pieces. So the first piece you saw me cut off 2 ends, which will become the backs of the cabinets, and then I'm going to cut 4 pieces off here, which will become the sides of the cabinets. Now rather than build one big cabinet, I'm actually going to build 2 smaller cabinets, just because it's a lot easier for me to handle that way. So each piece that I first cut with the track saw is cross cut on the table saw to the same length to make this cabinet a little bit shorter. I think it ended up around 42 inches or so tall. And then I ripped each piece on the outside so the smaller piece is a little bit thinner, which will set the width of this cabinet. Next I grabbed a new sheet of plywood, and with the fence in the same spot, I ripped 3 sections which would become the tops, middle, and bottom shelves of these cabinets. So all of the pieces of this cabinet will be assembled using Dado groove joinery, and while this might not be the quickest or easiest way, I think that building with this type of joinery is a ton of fun, and the cabinets turn out super sturdy. So whenever I'm making these cuts, I use the setup blocks to set that Dado groove 3/8 of an inch deep, which is exactly half of the 3/4 inch plywood. And then I like to leave a 3/4 inch gap between the end of each panel and the fence, which will make a little more sense later in the video. So in that last shot, you could see how the Dado groove went around the perimeter of that panel. So it can be a little tricky to describe which panels have Dado grooves in what space, and rather than go into way too much detail in this video, we'll just skip ahead to where I put all these pieces together, and hopefully this will make a whole lot more sense now. So later in the video, those inside panels will be glued together to make this one big cabinet, but you can see here how all the Dado grooves will line up, which will allow me to put those shelves in place. So those middle pieces that I just put in didn't have the grooves. I needed to mark where those Dado grooves needed to go, and since the cut would be made in the same spot on each side, I lowered the blade to about 1/4 of an inch so that I would take 1/4 of an inch groove out but still have 1/4 inch in the middle. After dry fitting all the panels in place, it was time to move forward with the glue up, and this is the part about using Dado joinery that I absolutely love. It can definitely be a little tricky to line everything up perfectly when making those cuts. Also, if you just happen to be off a small amount on one end, then that will not fit and that will throw everything off. But when it finally does line up all together and everything pops into place, it is extremely satisfying. Not to mention ridiculously sturdy compared to some other methods. Once everything was finally in place, I just had to wipe the glue off and then put some clamps on and let them set. So I made 2 of these cabinets to attach together, and for some reason whenever I made the second cabinet identical to the first, I thought it looked awful. So I redid the second part, taking that middle divider out. There's nothing like redoing an entire section of what you already did just because you failed to plan it out properly. Anyway, with my new and improved second cabinet in place, I just glued these together. So I put some glue on that middle panel and then clamped everything into place using pretty much every bar clamp that I had. And later on, those 2 cabinets were turned into one giant cabinet. So with the main frame of the cabinets finished and glued together, we could move on to the face frame, which is made from rough sawn poplar. So first we needed to mill it up. So we just go through the basic milling process from the joiner to the planer, then cross-cutting them to length and finally ripping everything to the width that we want. So I took a few measurements, made a few cuts, took some more measurements, and things were going pretty well, but then suddenly those things took a turn for the worse. Now, I don't know if a turn for the worse is the proper terminology for what just happened there, but whenever you're building something, if things don't work out and things don't fall apart, then you're not really pushing yourself to become better. And that's really what all this woodworking thing is about, is to just become the best version of yourself and to always strive for greatness while improving your skill set. Yeah, I'm just kidding. The board just fell off and it had absolutely nothing to do with anything that I just said.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Anyway, back to the actual face frame. So I used dominoes to hook all the poplar boards together. But before I could secure that in place, I needed to put some edge banding on the front section of some of these plywood boards where the shelves would go, where that poplar face frame will not go. And if you didn't think that an iron has a place in woodworking, well, let this serve as an educational piece that the iron is used to heat up the glue on the back of this edge banding that will glue that edge banding right down to the plywood face. Then a trim tool or a utility knife can be used to cut that flush with the plywood shelves, and then we can finally move back on to putting that face frame in place. So I scored the edge banding where the face frame would overlap that, and then the face frame can be secured in place using glue, a lot of clamps, and about 100,000 brad nails. If you have trouble keeping pressure on the inside face frame, they make these really fancy clamps that look a lot like dumbbells, and they do work really well for keeping pressure on places that you can't get a clamp. One of the bad things about using so many brad nails is that you have to cover up all of the nail holes, but using this dry deck spackling takes quick work of that, and while that was drying, I flush cut each end of the bottom frame piece off using a pool saw. I wanted to fancy up the bottom piece of trim a little more than just having a flat panel on there, so I cut an extra piece of poplar, and then using an OG roundover bit, I cut a nice profile on this with the router. Now I should have trimmed that out with the router before I cut those 45s because I did get a tiny bit of tear out on one of the corners, but in the end it ended up working out okay. So I attached that new trim piece to the front with glue and brad nails, and then while I had this thing upside down, I added a few extra boards on the underside for some extra support. And with this thing turned back right side up, I continued that profile around the corner just by adding another piece of poplar trim on each side. The top of this cabinet will be made from rough sawn red oak, and we mill it up in the same process that we did the poplar before, and then these boards were just attached together again using dominoes. The next day, after all the glue was dry, I sent the top through the planer one more time just to get rid of any edges or joints that might have shown up, and then I grabbed my track saw to flush cut the ends to make sure that the top was nice and square but also the same length on each one of those boards. Next, I added a quick round over to the top around the edges to give it a little more detail. Then it was sanded down, and finally it was ready for stain. So this was sanded down to 220, and then speaking of stain, I just used Minwax black stain. The recipient of this cabinet wanted black stain to match some existing furniture, And with that top stained, we can move on to the next step, which was to paint the cabinet itself. So I'm using my HomeRite Super Finish Max paint sprayer to make quick work of painting. I use 2 coats of primer, flipping the cabinet top to bottom each time, and then I use 2 coats of enamel paint to finish up the painting process. So after I had the main frame of the cabinet finished, I needed to make some doors. And I know what you're thinking, why are you making the doors after you painted the cabinets? And that's a completely valid question, and I think the best way of explaining it is that whenever you're building something, especially a big project like this that takes multiple days, oftentimes you'll only get a small window to do one certain thing or the other. And since I'm painting outside, and this is a large cabinet that would take most of the day, I needed to paint the main frame, and unfortunately I just didn't have the doors finished yet. So these cabinet doors are made from poplar, and I'm using rail and stile bits on my router table to put these together. Now I previously did a different video on these rail and stile bits that goes into a lot more detail than what I'm showing here. So if you want to see this in detail, check out the video description I have at the top of the screen right now. But in short summary, basically these rail and stile bits create an interlocking joint that line up on the ends of the cabinet frames, and then there's also a groove right in the middle where you can put a raised panel or some type of panel in the middle to make the centerpiece of that door. And for those center panels that I mentioned, I'm just using 1/4 inch birch plywood to put right in the middle, which will make a nice door for these cabinets. After the cabinet doors were sanded down and painted, I needed to put the hinges and the drawer pulls on them. There is a cabinet hardware centering jig commercially available, but I don't have one of those, so I just did it the old-fashioned way, measuring everything out one piece at a time, trying to be as precise and accurate with each mark as I could be. And with those holes drilled, I attached the hinges to the sides of each of these cabinet doors, and I'm using non-mortised hinges here. These look great, but they were a little frustrating to work with as I had some trouble getting the cabinet doors to lay completely flat, but in the end it did work out, and I do think that they fit the profile of the cabinet doors very well. Next on the to-do list was to put some gloss polyurethane on the top of this. It's not a whole lot of detail to this technique. You just put some poly on top and then brush it on until you get a nice even coat, trying your best to avoid getting any bubbles on the surface. If you do end up with some bubbles on the surface, you can sand those out. So I'm using 400 grit sandpaper here, and I am sanding as light as possible. You want to use very minimal pressure and really just try to sand the bubbles out and not sand into that actual layer of polyurethane. The last step is to go over the top once again with some wipe-on polyurethane, and then after that was dry, all I needed to do was attach it to the top of the cabinet. So I just attached some extra support boards, which was plywood, up on the underneath so that the top would set flush and not bow in the middle, and then the top could be secured in place. So on the back, I'm using these expansion brackets up against the back of this versus the top, which will pull the top down but also allow for wood movement if that top does happen to expand and contract across the grain. To keep the front and the rest of the top attached, I'm just using a couple screws up underneath inside of each of the cabinets. And it's actually okay to use screws here as far as wood movement goes, because the back will be free to expand. So as long as you only tack it down in one place and the other sides of the top can't expand, there shouldn't be any concern with cracking or warping over time due to wood movement. So with the top in place and a little test run to make sure that the doors were indeed actually functioning as doors, that would finish this build up. So here are a couple in shots. If you made it this far in the video, as always, thank you for watching. So drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.